Welcome back to Q&A Anime. You're here with Kadir and Akil, and today we're going to be discussing our top 5 devil fruits.
Yes, that's right. We're mixing it up today by doing a versus match between our top 5 devil fruits. I don't know what his top 5 are, and he doesn't know what my top 5 are, but we're going to debate to see whose top 5 would win in a fight. Because why not?
Exactly.
And as usual, make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell for notifications and updates. And without further ado, let's get into it.
So my 5th favorite devil fruit is the Paw Paw fruit, or the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi. Current user is Bartholomew Kuma. And the reason I like this fruit is because it probably has the biggest name to power differential in One Piece. By that I mean it has like the most non-threatening name with the most power. Like you hear it and you're like, that's all. But then you see someone who can use the devil fruit in the right way, and you understand how much trouble you're in. So Bartholomew Kuma has this really creative method of travel as the current wielder. What he does is he'll push his way off of air, and he'll seemingly teleport from one spot to another. He can also use the fruit to travel long distances over a 3-day period, so he can bump himself from island to island, and it kind of creates like this giant like paw sphere that lets him travel from one place to another. He uses it on other people as well. He used it on the Straw Hats to break them apart. And then he used it also in the Whitebeard War to take down the biggest giant in existence in one blow by compressing the air together and making a bomb, the Ursa Shock. So that's another like really ridiculous way he can use the fruit. And then probably one of my favorite, like most creative ways is that he uses it to push intangible concepts like pain out of one person, and he can transfer it to another. So you guys remember the scene where nothing happened. He pushed the pain out of Luffy and then transferred it to Zoro, which made me wonder if he could push other things like fatigue. So let's say you're in a fight with somebody and you have the Paw Paw fruit, would you be able to push the fatigue out of yourself and give it to your enemy? So just a lot of things that you can do potentially with the fruit. And I would love to see what the awakening of this fruit looks like, but sadly, I don't know that we're going to be able to see that, so all I can do is speculate. So what about you, Akil? What have you got for your...
Yeah, no problem. For my number 5, I actually put the Horo Horo no Mi, or the Hollow Hollow fruit, whose current user is Perona.
Interesting.
And I like versatility among my devil fruits. I like that like you can do a lot with them. And so the fact that I feel as though Perona's devil fruit definitely is one of the ones that's more versatile in the sense that she can create so many ghosts, and there's a level of versatility between them. You have the intangible ones that go through people and make them depressed, to the point where they don't even want to fight or even live anymore. But automatically, I just love the fact that, like, you could just stop fight before it even happens. Just one quick ghost handled. And she also has the one she can turn to bombs, and the bigger the ghost, the bigger the bomb. Her astral projection ability, and the fact that she uses the ghost as her ghost network, so she always knows what's going on, definitely also added another level of that I like. I like the fruit enough that it made my top 5 just at the bottom. But in terms of who would win in a fight, probably, I know I have to give it to Bartholomew Kuma, because we've even seen that he can push the ghosts away with his powers. So we already know that she would have a tough time beating him.
Yeah, we already saw the conclusion of the fight on Thriller Bark, so we already know what would happen there. This is something that actually occurred in the anime, so I think that's really cool that our fruits kind of like matched up that way. But for number 1, I think we got to give it to the Nikyu Nikyu no Mi.
Listen, can't blame him. You know, it's a really good fruit.
Yeah. So I guess we'll move on to number 2 here. So getting into one of the heaviest hitting fruits in the series, the 4th fruit.
Number 4.
Yeah. Sorry. So the number 4 fruit is the Magma fruit, or the Magu Magu no Mi. And the current user is Akainu, the red dog. He's an admiral in Marines, and he's currently Fleet Admiral, which is the highest ranking admiral, the highest level position in the Marines. So it's the fruit with the most firepower, my favorite move in all of One Piece. Yeah. What did you say, Akil?
I said literally the move with the most, but like fruit with the most firepower.
Yes, literally and figuratively. Oda goes to say that this is the most powerful fruit in the series, and it has one of my favorite moves. It's Ryusei Kazan. So what he does is he stands back, he just fires a whole bunch of like magma fists in the air, and then they come down as these giant meteors, and he uses that to absolutely decimate Whitebeard's crew in the War of the Best, or the Whitebeard War. And the heat produced by the magma is hot enough to instantly vaporize ice. And the reason this fruit was part of my favorite, and not Aokiji's Hie Hie no Mi, which is the ice fruit, is because Akainu was capable of defeating Aokiji in combat. So if you remember when they fought on Punk Hazard, I'm pretty certain that as both being admirals, their physical abilities are pretty similar. So I think what gave Akainu that extra edge was his fruit ability, and so that's why this landed in one of my top 5 favorites. And this is also a higher order fruit, so this fruit naturally outclasses the Mera no Mi in terms of heat, and the magma produced is able to consume the flames produced by the Mera no Mi, and it neutralizes the fire-based intangibility, which allows it to harm the user. So it was able to hurt Ace despite Akainu not intentionally trying to use his haki to hurt Ace.
Well, I actually think it's kind of funny that your number 4 was the magma fruit, because my number 4 is actually the Gura no Mi, or the Quake fruit, whose current user is now Blackbeard or Marshall D. Teach, but original user was Whitebeard. And listen, there's no way this one wasn't making it in my top 5. It gives you the ability to create vibrations or quakes, and it is so damn powerful. I mean, it's rumored to have the ability to destroy the world.
Yes.
And considered the strongest paramecia, no weaker than Loki is. I mean, that alone, insane. It already puts it on a whole different level. And on top of that, it said it can level islands easily. I mean, the amount of destructive firepower that fruit has, absolutely worth it. And remember when the shockwaves can go through ground, air, and water, all of which we've seen Whitebeard hit with? Remember when he tilted the sea at Marineford?
Yes.
I mean, come on. After that cold that was seen, there was no way I wasn't putting respect on this fruit.
Yes. Whitebeard utilized the fruit better than anybody else we could have seen in the series. I mean, you know, Blackbeard is smart, but Whitebeard has that wisdom that comes with age, you know? So he's definitely been around the block. He's no slouch. He was actually someone that used the Gura no Mi against Akainu, who is the user of the Magu no Mi. And I think that had Akainu not had the magma fruit, it would be no contest between Akainu and Whitebeard. You know?
Yeah, remember when he punched him and we saw him slowly getting crushed into the ground?
Yes, that was such a brutal scene.
It was so intense. Oh man, I just loved it.
And this wasn't just any Whitebeard. This was a Whitebeard that was on the brink of death. You know, he was already old.
Imagine Prime Whitebeard. Prime Whitebeard, dude. Oh my gosh, I could never.
Prime Beard would have destroyed Akainu, and it wouldn't have been a contest. I don't think that the magma fruit would have helped. Well, it might have helped some, but Whitebeard is just too seasoned of a veteran to let just anybody take him out without, you know. It would take Roger, probably, to 1v1 Whitebeard.
I was gonna say, yeah, Whitebeard's been doing this since Akainu was a little boy. Like, Prime Beard would have done him so dirty.
Yes, absolutely. And so, with that, I guess we're gonna move well, actually, let's talk about who we think would win that one. So, this is interesting because they've actually faced off, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we know that Whitebeard won their fight. So I wouldn't be against giving it to the Gura no Mi.
I wouldn't either, but I think that it's better if we're comparing current users, and because I feel as though that gives us more room to speculate, especially since Blackbeard has it now, and he has 2 Devil Fruits under his belt. But Akainu isn't weak either. Like you said, top-ranking position among the Marines.
Right. So he has to be strong.
Incredible strength.
Yes.
Like, the amount of power behind his fruit. And especially because Blackbeard, even though his devil fruit allows him to kind of, the dark
fruit. Yeah.
Yeah, the dark fruit allows him to negate kind of the intangibility that most devil fruit users get from their powers. So I do think it'd be kind of interesting to see them square off. And I feel like I would still probably give it to Blackbeard just because of the second power that he has. Like going up against two incredibly strong devil fruits like that.
Yeah, if it was just Blackbeard having the Yami Yami no Mi, the dark fruit, then I would probably give it to Akainu. But since we're comparing the Gura no Mi, if Blackbeard only had the Gura no Mi, I don't think he would be able to compete with Akainu because Blackbeard is not on the same physical level as Whitebeard was, right? So I think it would be he'd have a lot more to overcome to try to match Akainu. What do you think?
Yeah, I definitely do agree. I just feel especially because we know that Blackbeard doesn't have nearly as good control over the fruit. We saw that at Marineford when he was trying to also level Marineford right after stealing the power from Whitebeard. Yeah. And, he tried a couple times, but it takes time to learn how to properly use a devil fruit. It's rare for someone to just pick it up and put max output off the start. And so I definitely do think that right now, the fact that we haven't seen him for a while in the manga, so we have no clue what he's doing. But from what we've seen, I do think that it would be very hard for him to pull the dub if he was only working with one. Yeah. But the fact that he has both really does just kind of make it a whole new level of challenge.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see what the conclusion of their fight would be, what it would be now if they were to meet in open battle.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll get to see it one day, considering Blackbeard's quite the ambitious pirate, and Akainu is definitely not the type to let any of that slide anymore.
Yeah, so I guess, do you want to call it a draw? Because we're not entirely sure who would win.
I would be down to call it a draw. I definitely do think that between Blackbeard and Akainu, a draw is a fair way to end it.
All right, so moving on from that one, we have the Magu Magu no Mi and the Guru no Mi being a draw. So my third fruit is the Mochi Mochi fruit, or the Mochi Mochi no Mi. So this has the same name in English and Japanese because mochi is a Japanese cuisine, and it's the only special paramecia, which, for those who have read the manga, know that this classification was new. It was retconned by Oda, who originally introduced it as a Logia. So whether this was because mochi is an artificial substance and canon Logias are typically naturally occurring elements or substances, or because it mimics Logia properties, is still up for debate. It's one of the only awakened paramecia fruits we've seen thus far in the anime, joining Kid, Law, and Doflamingo's devil fruits. And having awakened this devil fruit, we know he is capable of turning his surroundings into mochi. And his movesets do serious damage. And they mimic a lot of the capabilities that we've seen from the Gamu Gamu no Mi that we know thus far. He's also able to fire off mochi as a projectile, which makes it very versatile. And of course, not to mention the Logia nature, he's seen to mimic as well. What I don't know is if his ability to dodge was due to him using the future sight, or if it was due to him being able to turn his body into mochi, or just cover it. And the distinction I like to make there is that if Magellan was, Magellan, the Warden of Impeldown, yes, he was able to cover his body in poison, but maybe if he were to awaken his fruit, he could turn his body parts into poison and mimic Katakuri's properties, giving it that special paramecia distinction, but I'm not sure. So, What's your number 3, Akil?
My number 3 is the Goro no Mi, or the Rumble fruit.
Oh,
whose
man.
current user is Minoru. Yeah.
Oh,
I was gonna say I like that you. I was gonna say I love that you put that Katakuri is actually the current user for your number 3 fruit, because I do think a battle between them could be interesting. I don't know enough about the properties of mochi to even know whether or not it conducts electricity well.
Right.
But yeah, as the people who watch One Piece know, that the Rumble fruit, or the Goro no Mi, gives the user the ability to create, control, and transform themselves into lightning. And from what we've seen from Eneru, it has a crazy amount of power output. Max volt that we've seen it put out was 200 million, which is more than enough to obliterate most things, especially because the wave, it was a wide wave that traveled miles in a direction when he blasted. So it definitely has crazy destructive properties. it lets the user move at lightning speeds. So that alone, like the fact that you get the instantaneous speed boost off it makes it really good. And they can stealthily travel through conductive materials like metal and such. And on top of all of that, its abilities extend to like electromagnetism and heat, because he can heat up the metal with electricity to reshape it however he wants, like he did with his gold staff and the gold on his boat. And then on top of that, it's how he was monitoring everything that was going on in Skypiea with his electromagnetism power, so he could hear when people were talking bad. And Skypiea was massive, and he covered the entire thing. So the power. It's one of the few fruits that is considered to be invincible. Like,
yes.
We don't know many of them, but one of the only ones that people have said, because of its power, considered invincible.
Yes. Oh my gosh, the Goro no Mi is. I'm not gonna give anything away, but it is a top-notch fruit, and it is also. It is also. Oh well, I guess I can't say also, but. He is 100% right in saying that it was invincible, because, well, I'm not going to get into that now, but it is definitely a interesting matchup between Mochi and the Goro no Mi, because we have no idea how this match would go. It depends on the properties of Mochi itself and if it conducts electricity. I do know that Mochi is capable of conducting heat, so Enel could still use the electricity to heat up Mochi and melt it away. I don't know how much control Katakuri would have if his Mochi was like melting, but it would still be an interesting fight nonetheless.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I do think that Katakuri would at least stand some of a chance, more than most people, given how good his observation hockey is. The fact that he can see into the future definitely gives him a better chance than most people at dodging a lot of Eneru's lightning attacks.
Yeah.
But I do think that unless someone just in the comments can like tell us whether Mochi conducts electricity or not, I think we'll have to assume that Eneru will probably end up taking the win.
You think so? I do think
so. Hang on, my question, do you remember how big Katakuri's bounty is?
How big his bounty is? He was the first person over 1 billion that we saw when he was introduced. So it's like 1 billion and 57 million.
Okay, that's what it was. Okay. Yeah, he has a big bounty. But Oda, the reason that's because Oda confirmed once that, like, without, like, easily, like, he wouldn't even have to put out much effort, that Eneru could have a 500 million berry bounty, like, easily. Like, just because of how expansive his power is. If he wasn't so obsessed with being God and traveling up to the freaking moon, who knows what he could have done. Imagine this man on his menace stuff like Blackbeard, or trying to be the Pirate King. Like, he would be dusting people. Easily.
But the reason that I think that Katakuri would win is because I think Katakuri utilizes his hockey powers and his fruit powers better than Eneru did. And the reason I think that is because, Katakuri awakened his power. He's capable of using observation hockey better than Eneru. It's just that Eneru's is enhanced by his Delafruit ability. So if you were to take the fruit and if you were to take the two fruits and swap them, I think that Katakuri would be way overpowered. Way more overpowered than Eneru would be. As having the Mochi fruit. So I do agree with you that the Goro no Mi is the better fruit, but I still think Katakuri would be the better fighter. Does that make sense?
Yes, I can see that, and I definitely agree. So if anyone, here's another top opportunity down in the comments. Say who you think would win in this matchup. Eneru versus Katakuri, from what we know, because the fact that Katakuri has hockey already gives him the means with which to greatly damage Eneru, because as we could see, he wasn't used to anyone being able to hit him. Like, when Luffy did it, he was already shocked, and so the fact that Katakuri has a really good hockey, on par with Luffy's at this point, clashing.
Yes.
I definitely do think that he stands such a solid chance of fighting Eneru.
Yes, the only thing that I think that Luffy has over Katakuri's strong armament hockey is right now is that Luffy knows how to coat himself with Conqueror's Haki, whereas I don't think that Katakuri has that ability yet.
Yeah, I don't think so either, because I think that would, even he's already on a different level, incredibly strong, and probably like the top contender among the commanders of the Big Mom Pirates
to be the next in command. Yeah.
His fighting prowess alone is just incredible, because it's true, he's so good. Remember when he was fighting Luffy, he saw Luffy use those moves, and just like similarly how Kaido was doing it, where he saw it then copied with his Mochi too. Like, it's crazy because we never would have expected that, especially because just thinking, like, if someone had the mochi fruit, I never would have expected them to use it to mimic the properties of a rubber fruit. So yes, his battle prowess really does put him on a whole different level, and definitely gives him like solid means to defeat Eneru. So we'll call it an unknown draw for now, and if anyone wants to debate down in the comments, feel free to.
Yes, I think that if you were to give the average person the mochi fruit and another average person the Goru Goru no Mi, you would have an easy victory by the Goru Goru no Mi. And that's why I think that the fruit wins. But again, One Piece is more than just about the fruit. It's about the person who eats it.
Exactly. That's why, like, Luffy's able to take on some people who have like such incredible devil fruits, because it's about how you use it. The ingenuity and his ability to come up with new ways to use his fruits. It's part of the thing that gives him such a good edge in a lot of these fights.
Yes. And it's also why you can have people who have no devil fruits that are absolute monsters, like Rayleigh.
Yeah.
And so, moving on to another really, really strong fruit. My number 2 is the Glint Glint fruit, or the Pika Pika no Mi. User Admiral Kizaru. You knew it was coming. I don't think you can be a One Piece fan and not love this fruit. The introductory episode of the man wielding the fruit was insane, and I get excited every time I see this fruit in action. You're able to move at the speed of light. You're able to create objects and coat them with Haki, as we saw him create those swords. He made actual lightsabers. We saw Kizaru put himself back together after taking a hit from Scratchman Apu. You remember when he got blown up and then he just regenerated instantly?
Yeah.
Ridiculous. He took down a mangrove tree with little to no effort by accident. He was like, oops, he used a little too much power. And the user is capable of flight, and most importantly, you can fire lasers. I don't know how much effort Kizaru has to put into mastering his fruit, but it should be noted that one possible weakness of his was that he relied too much on it. And this is a statement from a movie by a non-canon character, so of course, take that with a grain of salt. But if your opponent doesn't have any Haki, you won't be able to damage the user of the fruit no matter how strong you are, because your attacks will just pass through him like light. One caveat of the fruit is that it can only travel in a straight path, but it should be noted that you can also reflect the light off different surfaces to change the angle and trajectory of the attack. I could say more about this fruit, but we already know it's ridiculous. It should be noted that it's not a completely accurate depiction, like in a physics sense, because if he were actually kicking people at the speed of light, in like real physics, it would create like a nuclear explosion. So it should be noted that like One Piece physics is different from like actual physics, is what I'm trying to get at. And there's an SKCD comic here that kind of explains the physics of a baseball being thrown at the speed of light and what would happen. So there's definitely more, there's a lot of things to consider when bringing this fruit from a cartoon universe to ours, is I guess what I'm trying to say. So go ahead, Akil.
Sorry, could you...
All right. My number 2 was actually your number 5, I think. The Nikyu no Mi, or the Paw Paw fruit.
Oh.
Because listen, when you said that, I was like, that was crazy, because it made it on my list, because it is such a good devil fruit. Gives the user the ability to repel everything they touch. And the big part was the fact that you talked about the everything. Concepts, air, like anything he wants. On top of that, the fact that he can then use it, like he can control how far they get pushed away. Like he can literally push them almost instantaneously to where they want to go. Like when he sent the Straw Hats to their separate islands for the time skip. When he teleports himself. And the fact that he can, on top of that, like push the pain out of people, I was thinking more along the lines of, imagine like you just take your enemy who got bodied by somebody, push the pain out of them, and then push it into somebody else. Like your enemy, it was just such a powerful fruit. And the fact that like, you're right, it did have such a like innocuous name considering the power that it has. Cause I remember I loved seeing the first time when Luffy did that the gear second jet pistol, and we just see it kind of like hit the paw, and the paw just kind of like softly catches the blow, and then the shockwave goes down and he just sends him back. Oh man, such a cold scene.
That was a ridiculous scene, yes. There's no... Every time I see Kuma, I get nervous because he's such a ruthless character, and he has the ingenuity to use his fruit in such a dangerous way. And so we can debate as to which fruit we think would win in a fight between the Pika Pika no Mi and the Paw Paw fruit. I would have to say, if you were to give the Pika Pika no Mi and the Paw Paw fruit to like average people, I think the Pika Pika no Mi would come out on top.
Pika Pika no Mi, yeah, 100%. Even if the current users were to fight, I still think I would give it to Kizaru. It's the power of light. You're right. Like, he fires lasers. He made light swords. He took down the mangrove tree on accident. Like, we don't know the upper outputs of his power because that would just him be like, whoops, used a little too much. How much power do you have? How much are you packing back here? Because, like, even assuming Bartholomew Kuma could, like, reflect a couple, the fact that it's the speed of light and it can bounce off multiple things. That's such a hard ability to have to counter.
Yes. The only thing I could think of a hard counter is Bartholomew Kuma's proficiency with Haki. That's the only thing I could think would defeat Kizaru. Because if Kizaru were to kick Kuma could block it, and then it would send Kizaru flying. Because you remember how Kuma kind of deflected the swords from Zoro, the sword attack from Zoro.
Yeah.
It all depends on the ability of, like we were saying, it all depends on the proficiency, I think, of Kuma. And so it would be really hard to call the fight as is right now. Kuma's a cyborg, and we don't know if he's capable of using Haki as a cyborg. So I would think that Kizaru would come out on top. What about you?
I definitely agree Kizaru would come out on top too. I was hoping when we were doing the matchups, I was like, I'm not sure which one of my other ones would win, but I was pretty confident that Bartholomew Kuma would be able to hold up, but I was not expecting Kizaru to have to be the person / fruit he was matching up against.
That's fair. All right, moving on here. So, my top devil fruit of all time. And I was kind of stumbling over my words when Akil introduced the Goru Goru no Mi, because it's my all-time favorite devil fruit. And Akil listed all the reasons. I'm just going to go down again. You know, this one's kind of a no-brainer. Even though it's like half the speed of light, the power of electricity is still nothing to laugh at. It's one of the few fruits that are touted as invincible, because the current wielder, Iniru, he used the fruit to restart his heart. I don't know if you remember when he took a really hard hit and it kind of stopped his heart. He could use the power of the lightning to resuscitate himself, which I think is ridiculous. This fruit is totally unfair because, like the last one, it gives you access to a ridiculous amount of power with seemingly no drawbacks. Enel uses powerful attack after powerful attack in succession, and it doesn't seem to draw out his endurance at all. And as Akil mentioned, he was able to use his observation Haki in conjunction with his ability to read electromagnetic waves, so he could surveil an entire island and listen to conversations, see people's actions, all kinds of stuff that gave him like this god complex. I mean, the fruit is ridiculous. Outside of Haki, the obvious counter is the Gamu Gamu no Mi, but even then, depending on the user, victory isn't guaranteed. Enel is a half-decent fighter. Sorry, Iniru is a half-decent fighter. But if someone else got the fruit, like if Kaido were to get the fruit, he would be the Pirate King. There would be no stopping someone that powerful. Even if you were to make contact with Kaido, his just tough body, he can't really be taken down physically, you know? And then he has one of the most invincible fruits in the series. You would not be able to touch that man. And I can't emphasize enough how powerful this fruit is. He was capable of completely atomizing Angel Island in Skypiea with his Rygo attack. Imagine having this fruit in everyday life. Your devices would never run out of battery. You would be able to use power lines to travel practically anywhere. I mean, there's a lot more I can get into, but you get the picture. This is by far my favorite fruit, and I would not hesitate to eat it if the opportunity were presented to me.
Listen, honestly, I can't even blame you because, if it made it on both of our lists, that's how you know that it's a good one, because we can both agree of how powerful it is. But my number one fruit was actually the Kage no Mi, or the Shadow fruit.
The Shadow fruit? Oh my gosh.
Yes. Listen, gives the user the ability to manifest shadows in physical and tangible forms, cut them off of their original owner, and then place them in a corpse to create a zombie minion. I mean, come on, that is big Sung Jin Woo vibes. How could I not put it in the top spot? You can't tell me I wouldn't be grabbing a soul and be like, arise, just put it in a corpse, stack it, dude. Because you can put multiple in a corpse, so you can really stack it up. I mean, like... You can even manifest your own soul as like a semi-liquid form and have it fight for you.
Yes.
And like the only downside, you could still steal shadows from people stronger than you should you be able to grab it and cut it off before they stop you. It's just the fact that the shadow might not obey you at first. But even then, over time, they forget their original memories and just start listening to you anyway. So if you can hold on to the shadow for long enough, eventually you could have an army of insanely powerful people.
Yes, not only that, but you could eat the shadows yourself and gain a whole bunch of power. Because remember, Gecko used, Shadows Asgard, I think it was, to buff himself up to an unbelievable level and was just beating the crap out of the Straw Hats. And he ended up becoming a bigger threat than Ors did, right?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. The amount of powers that the amount of ways you can use that fruit are ridiculous, and I think that Gecko Moria is just dumb, but
he is. That's the problem. He's so dumb. Like I hate that he got one of the coldest fruits because he's so dumb. Look, listen, I would have stolen Whitebeard's corpse so quick. Imagine having Whitebeard's corpse on your team, dude. Come on.
Immediately, you would immediately. Well, he probably didn't have any shadows around that were strong enough to take over Whitebeard's body, right? Because you would need something super powerful to wield, to control Whitebeard.
I would just try throwing as many shadows in as it takes, you know? I'd be like, eventually if you pour in enough, I'm sure that you would be able to. All right, so you always want to get into who we think would win in a fight?
Yes. So, oh man, the way you brought it up, Akil, because you brought up how the Kage no Mi kind of reminds you of Sung Jin Woo. That level of power is ridiculous. Because you could have your own army. Dang, man, that makes it hard between the Goru no Mi and the Kage no Mi.
I'm gonna have to give it to Eneru just because if it was fruit against fruit, like with random people, maybe something different. But Gecko Moria is too dumb with his fruit to actually be able to utilize it well enough to beat Eneru. There's no way. Yeah,
I think that it would have to go to Eneru as well. But if you get someone who's like super proficient with fruits and like really smart, like maybe if you were to get like Doflamingo control of the Kage no Mi, or even like Katakuri the ability to use the Kage no Mi, then it might be a completely different story.
Imagine him like Katakuri with the Kage no Mi, using it in conjunction with like Big Mom's powers, because she steals souls from people. And then doesn't that mean that's just free bodies for him to put shadows into?
Yes, you're right. And what if the awakened version of the Kage no Mi allows you to control like intangible objects, kind of like Big Mom's fruit does?
Oh man, oh dude, that would be crazy.
Man,
that would make an unstoppable Big Mom pirate crew right there. Like if Katakuri had the shadow fruit, it would be so over. Like I would be so sorry for the Luffy that would have had to fight like Katakuri, who had an awakened shadow fruit, because even then, like in comparing fruits in terms of just their base powers, the shadow is way more powerful than the mochi.
Yes.
And you saw how nice Katakuri was with that. So there was not a doubt in my mind with the Shadow Fruit. He would be so nasty.
Yes. So with the current wielders, we think that the Goro Nomi is better. With average users, it would kind of be up in the air. But if you were to take the Kage Nomi and give it to someone smart, like Katakuri, they would destroy Iniru easily. So
I have an interesting question though. Now that I'm thinking about it, what would happen if the lightning hit a shadow? Would it pass through the shadow? Would it vaporize the shadow since lightning is technically giving off light in a sense?
It might vaporize the body that the shadow's inhabiting. That would be my guess. But if you remove the shadow of the person who has the lightning fruit, they might not be able to use their fruit entirely, because you remember how light causes the person without the shadow to kind of fade into dust.
Oh, and their entire body is lightning.
Yeah.
So, oh wow. Oh, that's I didn't even think of that. Yeah. So especially if someone who was smarter than Gecko Moria had that and managed to get the sneak on someone and take the shadow from the user of the Gura. Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, Goro, but
yeah.
Oh.
We're gonna have we can have some more interesting debates about this, but that wraps up our top 5, guys. So definitely leave some comments down below with what you guys think. Leave some likes on the video. Akil, give them your final thoughts.
Yeah, absolutely. Let us know some of your favorite Devil Fruits down below. Let us know what you think of some of the matchups, if you agree or disagree, and why. And yeah, that's about it. So Q&A out.
Q&A out.